The story begins with a woman who arrives at an isolated hunting cabin in the Austrian Alps, accompanied by her two companions, Hugo and Louise, as well as their dog, Lynx. Once they settle in, Louise persuades Hugo to join her for a drink at a nearby village, leaving the woman behind to relax. That night, she waits alone for their return, but the following morning, she wakes to find that they haven't come back. Unsettled by the eerie quietness, she becomes anxious, wondering if something has happened to her friends. She heads into the village, with her dog in tow, hoping to find them. As they move down the street, the dog suddenly halts and starts barking. When the woman approaches, the dog refuses to move forward. It's as though the dog senses something dreadful, and no matter how much she calls, it keeps retreating. As she tries to continue her journey, she unexpectedly encounters an invisible barrier blocking her path. Bewildered, she tries to touch what seems like a transparent glass wall connected to the rocks. Despite several attempts to break through, she eventually returns to the cabin with the dog. Later, she comes across a farmhouse, but once again, the invisible wall prevents her from reaching the two people inside, who appear frozen in time. She desperately pushes against the barrier, calling for help, but her cries go unanswered. Though the water from the tap keeps running, the couple inside remains motionless, like characters from a video game. Disturbed by the bizarre atmosphere, the woman leaves but continues to visit the spot every day, hoping the wall will vanish, only to be disappointed each time. One night, she is startled by a loud noise outside the door. In a panic, she opens it, only to find the wall has now shrunk, standing right in front of the cabin's entrance. In fear, she screams after touching it, only to wake up. The next morning, she cautiously checks outside and is relieved to find that the wall is no longer there. After scanning the area with binoculars, she concludes that the couple at the farmhouse and everyone in the village must be dead. While walking around, she stumbles upon a cow, which she names Bella. Despite the struggle, she begins to care for the cow, feeding and milking it, seeing it as both a burden and a blessing. Motivated by the need to break through the invisible barrier, she drives Hugo's car towards the village, hoping to push past the wall. However, she crashes into it, injuring herself, but the wall remains unmoved. Later, she writes about her experience, noting she's been trapped in the cabin for 10 days with no visitors. In despair, she contemplates suicide as the only escape from her situation. She also thanks Hugo for ensuring she has enough provisions to last through the winter. However, rejecting despair, she resolves to survive through the summer with Bella and her ever-present supply of firewood. She keeps track of time, marking off days on a calendar while growing potatoes and gathering food, reminding herself that she still has a trace of civilization. One day, as it rains, she hears a faint noise outside and discovers a small, shivering cat caught in the downpour. She takes the stray cat in and begins to care for it. As the months pass, food supplies dwindle, and winter approaches, meaning she must take charge of the food supply for the entire season. In a desperate attempt to survive, she starts hunting animals. One day, while trying to shoot a deer in the forest, she injures herself from the recoil of her rifle. She then returns to the site of the wrecked car, where she finds a map that leads her to another nearby lodge. On a bright morning, the woman, with Lynx by her side, heads to a high-altitude lodge. The experience brings her some peace, as she enjoys the warm sun, the picturesque landscape, and the tranquil sounds of birds. She notices a truck hauling timber in the forest and approaches it, hoping to find someone there. However, the invisible wall prevents her from reaching the vehicle. Instead of growing frustrated, she simply smiles and moves on. After some more trekking, she finds a lodge, explores it, and takes some necessary items. As she makes her way back, she feels guilty for killing a deer for food. That night, she is terrified by a storm, with the sound of thunder and lightning outside. She closes her eyes and falls asleep, hoping for a peaceful rest. The next morning, she hears a strange sound coming from a cabinet and discovers that the cat has given birth to a fragile white kitten. She names the kitten Pearl, moved by its purity and beauty. She feels a kinship with the tiny creature, believing that both she and the cat are trapped in a strange, unknown place. She reflects on how all living beings must eventually die. By July 20th, the woman has worked tirelessly to harvest hay from the meadow, continuing to survive in a world that seems to be stuck in time. At the start of the harvest, the woman's hands suffer from cuts and infections. After hauling a bale of hay back to the lodge, she struggles with the task for about 3 weeks, battling the cold and her deteriorating condition. Despite autumn being her favorite time of year, she feels increasingly unwell. Her nights are plagued with disturbing dreams, far more intense than usual. However, there's always Lynx, her loyal companion, who can't stay down for long. His boundless energy lifts her spirits, and she can't stay in a bad mood when he's around. She notices that Lynx always bows in her presence, a gesture that seems to signify something unique about their bond. One day, as she ventures out looking for a new path, she stumbles upon a tree adorned with human clothes. The mountain winds continue to blow snow, making it unbearably cold, forcing her to remain indoors. She remains concerned about her cats, especially Pearl, the white one. Later, she reveals that Pearl did not survive a fierce windstorm that lasted 3 days. Early one morning, she finds Pearl's lifeless body in the woods. The woman buries her, reflecting that the storm had finally ceased that very night. This is the first time she confronts death in the wilderness, feeling that she alone knows the difference between right and wrong. From November 5th onward, she begins documenting her experiences on the backs of old calendars and scrap paper. A harsh winter looms for the woman and her animals. She senses that Bella, her cow, might be pregnant. Bella has become close to her, like a younger sister who's been through similar struggles. The thought of continuing to kill animals for food deeply bothers her, and she cannot sleep at night, tormented by the guilt of taking innocent lives. On January 11th, Bella begins labor. The woman decides to assist, and after a long struggle, Bella successfully gives birth to a healthy calf. In the weeks that follow, exhaustion sets in, and the woman dreams of collapsing into the snow to escape it all. On May 25th, after a year spent at the lodge, she and her animals leave for the high mountain pastures to enjoy the warmth of the sun and the starry nights. Gradually, she finds herself less nostalgic for the past, no longer troubled by worries. She admits she didn't keep a journal during her time at the mountain lodge, as the memories still feel fresh and vivid. For the first time in her life, she experiences a sense of inner peace. The passing seasons, summer and then autumn, seem to slip by unnoticed. She feels time moving swiftly, a blur of moments when she's engaged in something, only to be swallowed up by it again. In one scene, the woman sits in contemplation, reflecting on Lynx and expressing her sympathy for the creatures, human and animal alike, who are forced to live without choice. One morning, she spots a white crow, rejected by its black relatives. She is struck by the bird's beauty and finds it absurd that such a thing should exist. After the rest of the flock leaves, she feeds the lone crow, seeing it as another outcast, like herself, in the wilderness. Over time, she begins to detach from her past, embracing a new way of being. In June, she returns to the meadow with her animals, but the excitement of last year has faded. Lynx, now fearless, no longer fears the thought of her disappearing. She reflects on how a dog's greatest fear is abandonment, a bond she deeply shares with him. One day, after a hike, Lynx picks up on something unusual and races ahead toward the lodge. When the woman arrives, she is horrified to find a strange man slaughtering Bella's bull calf with an axe. In a panic, she rushes inside to grab her rifle. The man, however, kills Lynx as he tries to stop him. Enraged, the woman fires her gun, killing the stranger. Devastated, she buries Lynx and throws the man's body off a cliff. In the early morning light, she and Bella leave the pasture behind, returning to the small valley. She spends the next week harvesting potatoes, fruit, and straw, preparing for the oncoming winter. By February 25th, having run out of paper, the woman finishes her report, and the film ends. That's all for this recap. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if you did. Leave a comment with any movie you'd like us to cover next. Until next time, take care.